Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few really good off-meta or sleeper OP picks for every single role in patch 8.10. So we're going to start off in the top lane and then we'll make our way down to the bot lane. So 3 picks right now in the top lane that are very strong for this meta, but all have below a 3% pick rate in this patch are Talon, Quinn, and Pantheon. These 3 picks right now are really good just mainly because the early game is a lot more important right now for this meta. If you're able to play one of these 3 champions really well in this patch, you're able to get priority in the laning phase and you're able to help your jungler just secure that scuttle crab in the early game or kill the enemy jungler when he's trying to go for the scuttle crab, then you can have great success on these strong early game top laners in 8.10. Quinn right now is performing super good against pretty much any bruiser top laner. She's got upwards of like a 60% win rate against picks like Riven, Darius, and Fiora. She just does great into a lot of these bruiser top laners. Talon and Pantheon have very strong kill pressure in the early game, so if you can get a little bit of poke off with these champions at level 1 and you can hit your level 2, then if you're running Ignite on these champions, you can very easily, a lot of the time, just surprise the enemy top laner with how much damage you're going to do and secure that first blood. All 3 of these picks can also roam very well at level 6, so not only can they generate a lead in their own lane, they can also help to generate a lead in other lanes as well, so they're just perfect picks for this patch in this meta, in this snowbally meta right now, at getting a lead in the early game and just transitioning that into other lanes and ending the game quickly. So if we move on to a few jungle picks now, the first one here is going to be Udyr. So Udyr in 8.10 is only sitting at a 5% pick rate. I do think that is going to rise in the coming patches though, because he is a very strong jungler for this meta. His skirmish at level 2 is one of the best for any junglers. Probably only Xin Zhao and Graves can actually contest him at level 2 for the Scuttle Crab, so his ability to secure Scuttle in the early game and to get a lead on the enemy jungler is really good. He's also a very strong jungler if you can get ahead with him, because all of his damage is guaranteed damage. You're not going to be missing like skill shots or anything on Udyr because he doesn't have any skill shots in his kit. So if you get ahead with him, you're going to be able to continuously invade the enemy jungler. There's not too much they can do to outplay you if you're playing Udyr because he does have guaranteed damage. So if you could just use his early game well in this patch, get ahead, then you're going to have a very, very good time in 8.10 and you're just going to be able to set the enemy jungler very far behind. And then 2 other jungle picks here that are really good for this meta are both Nunu and Ivern. So both of these picks right now are actually sitting at below a 2% pick rate, so they're not seeing a whole lot of play in 8.10, but in the higher elos they are being played a little bit more and they are pretty good for this meta. Both champions have very good scuttle control in the early game and they can very easily, or at least Nunu can, he can very easily just secure the scuttle crab even if he is in a 1v1 scenario because he does have the Q Smite combo. Ivern is also a very strong pick in this patch because he does have the ability to invade very well and steal away the enemy jungler's camps, and if you can do this successfully against some of these jungle picks that do rely on getting a lead in the early game, then you are going to be able to shut them down really well with Ivern. And if you can do that and you can generate a lead yourself as Ivern, then Ivern is probably one of the strongest junglers in the game in my opinion if he can get a lead, just because the amount of shielding you can put out, the amount of healing you can put out once you grab like your Athenes and Redemption is insane, so it's very hard for the enemy team to actually do anything against a good Ivern player if he does get ahead. Now, unlike Udyr though, I think that these jungle picks do take quite a bit more games to really get the hang of and really start to see success on, mainly because they're not junglers to where you're just going to be able to get a lead in the early game and solo carry the game. They're junglers to where you need to know how to play macro pretty well because you need to be able to take advantage of their strong objective control. You also need to know when the right time to invade is, and you need to know where the enemy jungler is most likely to start in the early game so you can take advantage of invading. So I do think that overall they're a little bit harder to execute, but once you do really know how to play these champions well, they can be super good picks for solo queue. So moving over to the mid lane now, the first pick here is going to be Aurelia. So Aurelia mid lane right now is being played a lot by high elo players and pro players in this patch. She's a really good pick into a lot of burst mid lane champions, any burst mage that does have a very telegraph combo or a combo that Aurelia can very easily use her W on. She can be a great pick in those matchups. She's also really good against a lot of skill shot mages because she can very easily dodge out on those with her Q, and then her level 6 all in against a lot of these squishy mid lane champions can be really good, and it can really catch the enemy off guard because you're not going to see a ton of Aurelia mid, so the likelihood of the enemy actually knowing how to play against the pick is going to be very low. I do think the snowball potential of Aurelia mid lane is definitely a little bit better than top lane Aurelia, just because you're in the middle of the map, so you do have the option to either roam top lane or roam bot lane. You can also look to coordinate some invades with your jungler if you do get ahead, so your ability to just continuously keep getting kills in the early game and keep helping your team out with Aurelia is really good if you are playing her in the mid lane. And then two other mid lane picks that I think are great counter picks to a lot of the strong meta mid lane champions are both Diana and Lissandra. Both picks right now can do very well into some of the most picked assassins. Both are really good against Zed, both are great against Echo, both are pretty good against Fizz as well. So they're just overall pretty good counter picks in this meta. They're also not the worst blind picks either. I think that if there's any meta to where these champions would be an alright blind pick, then it would probably be this meta. Both picks do have very strong skirmish at level 6. Lissandra's got really good lockdown with her ultimate and her W, and then Diana's got just very good burst damage at level 6, so you do have really good skirmish, and you can look to win a lot of 2v2 scenarios once you hit 6 with these champions. And they do have really good early to mid game power spikes, which is really good for this meta. You don't really want to be playing champions you need to scale up on in this patch, and because Diana and Lissandra can spike really well off of 1 to 2 items, they are pretty good for the current meta. So if we move down to the bot lane now, 380 carry picks that I think are very underrated for this patch are Miss Fortune, Ashe, and Draven. So all three of these picks can do a really good job at getting priority in the laning phase. All three of these champions do have very good kill pressure in the laning phase, and they just overall spike pretty early on into the game, which makes them pretty good picks for this meta. If they don't become more popular in this patch, I think that in 8.11, when the 80 carry items get reworked, these three ADs, and especially Miss Fortune and Draven, are going to be very good for 8.11, with crit items getting changed to where they're going to spike later on into the game. Playing these early game 80 carries and just taking advantage of their strong 1 to 2 item spikes is going to be very beneficial, and I think that you're going to have a lot of success on these 380 carries in the next few patches if you do look to pick them up. And then because for solo queue right now, a lot of the most played champions in the top lane, mid lane, and in the jungle really don't have the best engage. In the top lane, we're seeing a lot of bruiser picks being played. In the jungle, we're seeing a lot of Xin Zhao and Graves in this patch, and they don't really have good engage. In the mid lane, it's mostly assassins, so having someone like that Ashe on your team, for example, if you've got a Zed mid lane, if you have like a Riven top lane, and a Graves jungle, then you're really not going to have any engage with that team comp. So rounding out your comp with an Ashe pick or just playing Ashe in this patch is going to be very beneficial for a lot of team comps. And then lastly, to round out the video for the support role, two picks I have here that I think are underrated are both Fiddlesticks and Bard. So there's a few different reasons to why these picks fit pretty well into the meta. I just talked about how a lot of the other roles don't have a ton of engage in this patch, and Fiddlesticks and Bard can do a very good job at filling that void. You've got the Bard ultimate, you've also got the Fiddlesticks ultimate that can do a very good job at engaging in the mid game. They're also picks to where they do have very strong early laning phases, so a lot of the time you're able to get priority with these champions in lane, and you're able to roam over and help your jungler with the Scuttle Crab. The roams, once they pick up Moby Boots, are also super good. They're two of the best roaming supports in the game, so if you get ahead in the early game, then you can do a very good job at just roaming around the map and helping your team snowball even harder. And then I think that Fiddlesticks especially has been helped out a lot by some of the recent item changes for support, with Shirelia's getting introduced back into the game, and with that item just synergizing very nicely with Fiddlesticks, it just allows him to engage really well. It allows him to stick onto his target, and it pretty much guarantees that he is going to be able to get the fear off when he does use his ultimate. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Those were 2 to 3 picks for every single role in 8.10 that I think are very underrated, very undervalued for this patch, but are very good picks for this meta in patch 8.10. So if you guys did enjoy this video, then I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.